This is Synchronicity.
This is Synchronicity.
This is Synchronicity.
This is Synchronicity.
This is Synchronicity. This is Synchronicity.
Welcome to episode something of Synchronicity. My guest this week is Ramin Nazer, and let me say this, great episode. This is one of those episodes where if I didn't have to leave to go do something at the end of this one, I feel that this could have gone on for hours, and I got the sense that Ramin would have been okay with that too, which is awesome. I have a couple of cool things to announce right now regarding MindPod Network. We added 2 new podcasts and podcasters to the network. One of those is Ramin, Electric Brain Skull, or Rainbow, I called it Electric, Rainbow Brain Skull Podcast Hour. Ramin's podcast is now a part of MindPod Network. Not to be outdone, Jason Lou's Ultra Culture podcast is also on MindPod Network. We're adding new people, trying to figure out exactly kind of how to revamp MindPod Network. We're adding people, getting a better sense of the type of stuff we're putting out, but I'm really excited and proud to have those guys on board. So yeah, go check them out, mindpodnetwork.com. All right, let's talk about Ramin. Ramin first came to my attention when he was on Sean and Cass's Very 8 podcast, also on MindPod Network. And it was one of the most enjoyable episodes I've heard. Ramin struck me as someone who not only is gifted comedically, artistically, creatively, but really just seemed like a cool dude, right? Funny, fun, seemed like he smoked weed. I liked it all. So, yeah, I heard him then. Was like, I reached out to Sean and Cass. I told him, oh, he's great. I got to get this guy on sometime. And then, of course, like I do, I forgot about it. Then I saw that Shane Moss, that Ramin had been doing some artwork for his new film and for some other things like his tour poster. And I was like, oh, this guy gets around. That's pretty cool. Listened to a podcast he had done with Shane, and it was great. So it's like, all right, that's 2 times. I'm going to forget about it again because I'm an idiot. I'll wait for the 3rd time. Then I saw that Ramin had Duncan on his podcast, Duncan Trussell, and I was like, all right, 3rd time's the charm. Let me reach out to Ramin, set something up. Started listening to his podcast. I was like, oh, shit, this guy should be on MindPod Network. He's a great dude. Let's get this going. And so that's what we did. If you're not familiar with Ramin, he is, like I mentioned before, a wonderful visual artist. I don't spend a tremendous amount of time on Instagram. Most of my activities are taking videos of my son, Eli, and posting them to Instagram stories and then watching other people's. Who's got the time for Instagram? Apparently everyone. But Ramin, whenever I see his stuff, it's a nice little kind of like reminder that the world isn't what it seems, that there's another way of thinking, that our consciousness can be diverted to different places at different times, some positive, some negative. But to have these little reminders pop up is just a wonderful thing. And I love it. I love it. And we talk about it a little bit. And as someone who's posted quite a bit of quotes and platitudes and aphorisms from, popular thinkers and teachers over the years, I think something we touch on in this episode is important, which is you can post those things if they still resonate with you, but trying to come up with new ways of saying these things that are more applicable for our culture, but still carry the same weight and resonance is also really important. And that's what Ramin is doing. He's also a hilarious comedian. I checked out his stand-up set from, I think it was Conan. I don't know what it was from, but it was hilarious. He's just a cool, funny, nice guy. And those are the people we like to have on MindPod Network and like to have conversations with on this podcast, yada, yada, yada. Go check out Ramin, not only on Twitter and Instagram, but go check out his website, raminnazer.com. He's got lots of really cool stuff. And the reason I'm bringing this up is you want to support people like this, people who have somehow found a way to make a living, even if it's not like the best living in the entire world, but who can turn their creativity into money units that support their lives and let them keep doing what they want to be doing. I think that's really fucking cool. So go check out his thing. His site. He's got prints. He's got pins. He's got shirts. He's really fucking cool. So I think I've done enough shilling for Ramin. We also, at the end of this episode, if you want to listen to it, we talk a little bit about cryptocurrency. So sorry about that, people who don't like cryptocurrency, but that's what it is, and that's what we do. Anything else I have to get to before we start the episode? Patrons? Music? You know I've been releasing these little intros and outros that I've been doing. Music is a-coming. Music is a-coming. That's not the music that will be coming, but, you know, there'll be other stuff. Thank you for all the people who contribute on Patreon. Oh, one thing, we did a live cryptocurrency question and answer session on July 12th. It went really well. I didn't record it. I should have recorded it. I'll record the next one, but I'm going to do one of those every month. So rather than, saying, join my cryptocurrency server, do this, do that, I'm just going to say, listen, if you want any information, if you have questions about cryptocurrency, but don't want to really make a huge time commitment, sign up for the Crypto Sync list, syncpodcast.com/crypto. And I'll email you the next time we're doing one of those, probably mid-August around that time. Listen, here's the deal with cryptocurrency, and I'm not going to bring it up all the time. You can ignore me now. You can think I'm stupid. You can think I'm a speculating madman, whatever you want. There will come a point in time in the not too distant future where you go, oh, shit. I wish I would have bought a little bit of Bitcoin. I wish I would have had a little bit of this. I wish I would have paid a little bit more attention. This is your opportunity. You don't have to do anything, but maybe learn a little bit in a not so difficult way. That's what the point is. Okay. I think now officially, we're done. Please go check out Rainbow Brain Skull, Ramin's podcast. It's wonderful, wonderful guy. I'm sure you will see by the end of this episode why I think Ramin is so wonderful and why I've added him to my Pod Network. So yeah, that's it. I love you. Keep doing your thing. And without further ado, here is Ramin Nazer.
All right, is this better?
Yeah, it's a little fuzzy, but at least it's not
Delayed. Yeah, we can hear it.
not delayed.
That's the most important
Hopefully
thing.
I sound as crisp. Like I really wanted to use my actual recording microphone so that it's studio quality, but beats the delay, I guess.
It's definitely better than the delay, and I can go in and post, man, and bump up those low frequencies if that's what you're searching for.
Yeah, and I guess no one really cares about audio quality with podcasts. Like I'm just thinking of these McKenna lectures I listen to, and some of them are just they're close to indecipherable, but I'll listen to 3 hours of it because I'll
It's
take
so
that
true.
over a crisp Katy Perry song.
It's so true. I know exactly. I mean, like it's funny because sometimes I'll be like, you know what, no one really cares. But I've had audio trouble on like a couple episodes, probably more than a couple. And I've had people hit me up. They're like, listen, I can make it better. I'm like, I don't know where to go. Like I really, on one level, I definitely want it to sound as good as possible. But then on the other level, it's totally true. Like I've listened to things like old Alan Watts talks. There's like babies. He's in like a church and something and like someone's crying. It's like, I will strain through everything just to hear that. So I guess if you're listening, you probably don't care.
Yeah, people only notice when it's very, very, very bad. Like they don't notice when it's good.
It's so
kind of
true.
one of those underappreciated things.
It's so true. That's true. Well, dude, thanks for doing this.
Totally. Yeah, it's a pleasure.
I'm really excited.
And have we started yet? Because some people roll like that. I even roll like that sometimes. Where you lay it on them, like, oh yeah, and we've been recording for 5 minutes.
So my stuff records right as soon as something picks up for Skype or FaceTime. So technically we're recording, but I don't.
Okay, good.
I don't necessarily spring it on people like, got you, motherfucker. You said some fucked up shit. Now I'm putting it out there. So yeah, no, we've been recording, but we can start it theoretically wherever.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm open book. You can put on whatever, wherever.
All right,
Actually,
awesome.
I'm gonna try to plug in my headphones right now so I can hear you a little better. But if that
Okay.
doesn't work, then we'll just do it regular phone call style. It's
Okay.
like we're old friends talking on the phone like we did in the '90s about stuff that happens in 2018. All right, and
Better?
um, yeah, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, actually, you're way better. Oh, but you know what sucks? Now I can't hear myself, so I'm gonna stop it.
Okay. It's whatever you prefer.
Man, yeah, I'll get used to it. I'm just such a fancy boy. I love having headphones in, and I love hearing the other person's voice like directly into my ears and hearing my own, so that if I'm saying a word too close or too far away, I can adjust.
Right.
But this goes back to the sound thing. Who cares? People want the content. They don't.
It's so, it's so true, but I do the exact same thing. Dude, I sometimes wear headphones when I realized I can't even hear my voice in them just out of habit because when I'm recording, like that's how I do stuff. And I'm like, there's literally no function for me wearing this. It's just like a security blanket.
Yeah.
There's no practical reason for me wearing these headphones right now. But I get it. Well, man, there's so many places we could start. I actually got tuned into, I guess I first saw your work, like some of your art on Shane's podcast and some of the stuff you've done for him. But then I heard you on Sean and Cass's Very Eight podcast,
Oh,
which
dope.
yeah,
Yeah.
like Sean
Very
and
ape.
Cass are like two of my best. They're like my favorite people. Like they're on my podcast network, but they're just like some of my best friends and just wonderful people. And I specifically hit them up, and I was like, "Yo, that was like one of the best episodes I've heard in a while. That was perfect." They're like, "Yeah, he's so cool." And then I guess it's been a few months since then. You've popped up maybe like 20 different places online and through mutual acquaintances and everything. So I'm super stoked to speak to you, man.
Yeah, synchronicity style, huh?
That's how I find guests for this show. How else
Yeah,
should I do it?
they're great. Very Ape is my favorite. I mean, I hate using the word favorite because there's so many favorites, but it might be my favorite late night podcast. Just the way that it's just so laid back and like soft, not like soft in a boring way, but it's like they're kind of speaking softly. There's music at the
Yeah,
beginning.
yeah,
They're so open with each other, and I don't know. I think that's such a great friendship and relationship, and
yeah.
yeah, I did it when it was the thruple when Mara
Oh, I know.
was there too, and now it's they've de-thrupled, and it's the
Thruple. I love
original
that
two
term.
spaceman and woman.
I love that thruple. Yeah, I saw them. I guess not too long after that happened. They were going through it and they were like trying to figure out how open publicly. And I was like, listen, it's like any relationship. You guys will know, what's the tactful thing to do there and everything. But yeah, what I love about that show is it really does capture what it's like being with them. Just like there's really not like a whole lot of difference of just hanging out with them and the podcast, which I think in this era of like so many contrived things where everyone's trying to look perfect and produce everything perfectly, even us, right? We're trying to get our audio perfect. It's really
Yeah,
refreshing. And like don't be, fooled. Cass and Sean really care about the quality of what they're putting out too, but they don't have to try. It's like effortless for them to just be themselves, which I think is really refreshing. That's why.
yeah, and I don't think you were criticizing the or even commenting on the production value because
Yeah,
the
right.
production value is good. He's got
Yeah.
that briefcase with the
Yeah,
headset and the
that's
microphones,
the
everything.
Hunter S.
They're
Yeah.
filmmakers. They like are actual filmmakers, not just like well, I'm making a movie with my buddies. They're like been in festivals and whatever. I don't know that much about the film world and like how movies make it to. I'm starting to learn a little bit more, like that festival circuit, and then they buy it and get distribution and blah, 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 blah. But
Yeah, well, Shane's got
um,
his thing. I'm sure you're learning a little bit about it. I also don't know much. I learn everything from them. And usually it's their disillusionment with the entire process. They're like, we're not doing it like that. We're doing it like this. We're giving everything away. I'm like, well, maybe like also do this just in case you want to know who's listening or watching your stuff. And they're like, oh, okay. But yeah,
yeah, it's weird we get into a little self-sabotage with that. It's like you're
yeah.
afraid of people not buying it, so it's like screw it, I'm gonna give it away for maybe that's not their intention, but I know it's mine. I come in, I fight with like trying to be a good businessman and being not, gross.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if it's as fine of a line as we probably think it is for ourselves. But, on the same token, like, I think it's easy to see sometimes when people are just like overly promoting themselves, even if it's something like cool. Like, I think it can cross that line easily. So I don't want to say it's just like, don't, everyone give themselves a break. Just put whatever it is. Don't worry about it. I think there's an element of truth to that, but also like your stuff. Let me just say how your web presence is awesome. Your social media accounts are awesome. They all feed what you're doing and who you are, but it doesn't come across as like a funnel. You know what I mean? It doesn't come across as you're being marketed to. It's like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I do. Check it out. If you like it, here's ways you can engage with me. And I think that maybe is a fine line, but it's also just another kind of way of being yourself. And once you kind of get in touch and find out who that is a little bit, I mean, I wonder if you could speak to that, because I've noticed that with your stuff. Whenever I show your stuff to other people, and they're like, yeah, this is awesome.
Oh, thank you. Well, I think this started organically, like with the drawings specifically. I think that I was starting to realize that, all of social media is me, look at me, do my thing and buy my thing. And then, I've always written down like little reminders to myself in my room, because I have bad habits and I veer off the path, and I need to constantly recorrect my path because default mode is just really bad. And then I was just thinking like, well, maybe because I wanted to draw it, because then there's a visual element, because text often just becomes part of the wall, like live, laugh, love, we're all one, whatever deep,
Right.
all of the ancient Chinese proverbs and Plato and Socrates, it's all true, and we know it's true, and like we don't need any more motivational or whatever you want to call it, philosophical stuff. It's been figured out. It's like all about presenting it in a way that hasn't been said before, so it's salient and it hits something in your head. I think I've said the same thing, like, I don't know, hundreds of times before, but basically, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, just posting it online and feeling weird, like, oh, this isn't funny. This is kind of a vulnerable, cheesy thing. Should I post this? And then I'm thinking of those, Seth Godin talks, and like, yeah, or Brene Brown, like, yeah, if you're feeling vulnerable and you're afraid to put it out, then definitely put it out, because if you don't feel that feeling, it's not going to be that good, probably. And maybe it will suck, but you need that as the compass. So I was putting those out, and then after those kind of became, a little more popular, people liked it and stuff, some people were asking me like, oh, do you sell prints? And I was like, I don't, but I will now. And then I started selling prints, and then sometimes people ask if I sell shirts, and then so I added shirts. And I never set out to be like, I'm going to build a store that sells cards and shirts. I don't care about making that. I just wanted to give the stuff to the people that wanted it, and also try to actually pay my bills with it. So it's been growing ever since. Or with like the little enamel pins, I learned because a friend of a friend owns that, what's it called, Yesterdays. It's a pin company, and she was saying that they make like 20 grand a month on it or something.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, no way, really? People like pins now? And I was like, I can design little pins. What kind of pins would I design? I'm like, well, first do my logo and just go get a small order of those, and just kind of little by little adding to this store. But I also, I don't think there's anything that I have behind a wall. Like I put out all my books. You can read them for free, but if you want the physical version of the thing, then I sell it, and I don't make a ton of money off of them, just like enough to justify the sale and the packaging and all that. And yeah, if you wanted to print it out yourself, you could even do that. I'm not very litigious, or people sometimes people share the stuff and they crop my name out of it. I've since gotten over that. At first I was like, hey, at least don't crop my name out of it, but now it's whatever. It's 2018. Donald Trump's the president. You can crop my name out of whatever you want. I don't care.
You just go right to that with the cropping of the name and the copyright infringement. Fuck it. Donald Trump is president. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
That,
and not even to get into all that. It's just kind of like a nice little just it's just a word I say just to point out that we're really far into the future. Like
I
thinking about
know.
the people who have died and the technology that we've gotten
I
used
know.
to. Like we've watched the future become the past.
Yeah.
We've gotten past numb to shootings.
Yeah.
We've gotten it's and I'm an optimist. I think this is all we're all in this big egg and it's leading to some big uh dimension shift type of thing. You know, the transcendental object at the end of time, everything is unfolding just as it
Yeah.
should. You do your best by helping those near you because if all you're doing is calling your congressman and then neglecting your family and friends, then that's
Right.
no good. And everyone that I've known that just friends that and family that have died in the past 5 years, 0% of those had anything to do with politics. Like it's all been whether it was an accident or a brain tumor or suicide, it was all like completely separate from that. So I try to keep that in mind when you're being shown a lot of fear-based stuff. It's like, yeah, that's there, but watch out for these unknown unknowns that are probably more dangerous.
Well, and it also, I love how you put that. And it also kind of emphasizes the point that, like, there is a lot of bad shit going on in the world. But if you don't take care of the basic level stuff for yourself and those around you, how much good can you do out there for those causes, right? How
Yeah, you can't
quickly
pour from an empty cup.
Yeah, exactly. How quickly are you going to burn out because you don't have your shit together? I mean, I've experienced that. Everyone has experienced that who's been kind of open to the suffering of the world, but once they go out there to kind of blazing guns, they're like, "Oh shit, I also have some
Yeah.
problems I need to deal with." It's a weird. So I'm releasing a podcast in the next couple of days with Roshi Joan Halifax, who's
Oh,
just
dope.
oh, she's the coolest. I've known her for several years. She's a really just she walks the walk, the way I would put it. Like that woman is literally going around and doing everything she says, should be done, which is cool. So I was asking her, I was like, listen, what do we do? Because this immigration stuff, I just had a kid 2 years ago, so I see the immigration stuff, and I'm like, yeah, this is beyond the pale. Like I can rule off like health insurance. You want to fuck people? You're gonna kill millions of people. All right, what are we gonna really do? It's a logistic nightmare. But I think basically we shouldn't be keeping people in cages and taking their kids away when they're
Oh, of
seeking
course not.
asylum. So I was asking her. I was like, listen, what do we do? Like, what are we supposed to do? And her answer wasn't that different from what you just said, which is you got to be mindful of your internal states. Because if you start there, then you'll be able to do just like you did when you described your store, to tie it together. You didn't start with the idea that I'm going to build a store and sell all this stuff. It naturally evolved through an organic process of your audience and your fans telling you what they would like. That's also the same approach you have to have when you're approaching any big ass problem in the world too. Like you can't just go like, I'm going to solve this child immigration thing today. Like I'm going to do it. So
Yeah.
I'm going to do it by tweeting this shit out. And now everyone will get it, which everyone is doing, by the way. And I understand I do it too. I had to delete tons of emo tweets the past few weeks, but it really does underscore the importance of just like start where you are. It's okay to see this stuff, but if it's getting to the point where you're just getting slammed with it, that's not helping anyone.
Yeah, for sure. So you said you deleted a lot of emo tweets.
I did.
Let's talk about that. So would you explode and then you went back and be like, you know what, that's not my best self. I better go edit
So yeah, I usually don't delete a ton of tweets because I think it's funny. I think to me, Twitter, yeah, I've been on for a really long time. It's just digitized consciousness. It's this amazing thing where we've just removed the part of ourselves where we have to physically say the words. So it's a shorter distance to getting these crazy thoughts out. So that can be amazing. If you're hilarious, you can get really funny, acerbic things out. But if you're having an emo day or you're going through a breakup or you have drunk tweets from back in my earlier days, this shit can be super embarrassing. So, I would tweet this stuff out and I was like, you know what? Who is this? This isn't making anyone else feel better. This makes me look like a dumbass. So I'm gonna go back and unceremoniously delete all of these. It was just so many last week. So many.
Oh yeah, we've all been there. And I don't really do a lot of text posting because
Yeah.
I don't know, I feel like my hot take isn't really adding much to the conversation that everyone's already made already. And the more and everyone's got a unique thing to offer. It might not be the thing that you offer is the unique thing to offer, but everyone has it in them. So I think that everyone should, try to tap into that rather than just saying the first thing that they feel and putting it out there. And because we get lost in it, like it's, that whole Ram Dass little thing he would say, like where do you start? I'm on the good guy mailing list too. What is it? Do we save the whales? Do we stop this thing? Like what? And it seems to be we're just focused on what's most recent, and then we forget about the thing that was a week ago to focus on the most recent thing. Not that it's the immigration thing isn't a problem, but man, people going back and listening to this episode, maybe someone discovers this podcast in February 2019, and they're like, oh shit, yeah, the immigration thing, like that was before this, which was then washed over by this, and I don't even know what the next things coming are. But you remember that the new Dave Chappelle special? And he talks about the Challenger and how kids in the 80s, like they got to go home after the Challenger blew up, and now we get like a equivalent of the Challenger every 15 minutes, maybe even more now.
It's so true. They put OJ on in I think it was elementary school, or was it middle school? They wheeled in a TV to watch the verdict. Like they literally did that. That was a thing that was done back then. Because they're even back then, like just right around the internet, like there were big media events for people, and now we're just getting slammed with this stuff. I know. It's weird that it's also purposely this is done. This isn't an unintentional thing. This isn't something that just kind of has amassed itself through the system that we built. Like there are people making decisions to kind of beat us over the head with a lot of stuff, and we become either willing or unwilling participants. And it's a weird thing, which is why bringing it back to kind of what you do, I find it so refreshing because you kind of cut through a lot of that stuff. Whenever I see your stuff online and I'm going through my day, I'm like, oh yeah, it's a little peek into the other more kind of often whimsical sides of serious stuff, though. It's not like you're not just like doing like retreats into nonsense. You deal with things like death and like technology obsession and all of these things, but you do it in a really fucking cool way. Where did that kind of evolve from in terms of like you coming up with that?
I think I've always been a space cadet. I'm not one of these people that's like, you know what? I'm not going to watch the news anymore. I never watch the news. I can't stand that shit. And I was terrible in social studies, and I was good at math and physics and stuff like that. But just the social sciences, I had trouble remembering, like, what does the Congress do again? What's that guy's name? What is that type of thing? So it's not like I'm intentionally veering away from what's going on. It's my natural state to want to do more whimsical, far out there stuff. Even whether it's the cartoons I watch or the music I like, it seems to all be of that family. And
what cartoons?
I get tired of what's that?
What cartoons do you like?
Oh, just let's see. Just let's take like Rick and Morty or the Simpsons or South Park, or just old like animation stuff, Spike and Mike's Animation Festival or Mike Judge. I'm blanking on them, but
you just named like a lot of really good ones, so I wouldn't exactly.
But they're like, those are the giant ones, though. Sure. I'm trying to think of like specific animator, like Don Hertzfeldt or little things like that.
They'll be lost on me anyway. Someone listening will be like, "Oh yeah, Don Hertzfeldt, of course." I'm like, I have no idea.
But I try to, because I drew a comic strip at my college newspaper, and then I did that so much that I got tired of that format of like the 3-panel format. And then I decided like, well, things are squares now. Like everything we upload is a square. When you upload something that is not a square to social media, it looks weird or it gets cropped out or something. So you know what? I'm going to just do a thing in a square from now on. And like most people, I think we have way more ideas than we know what to do with. So I try to keep those somewhere and write them all down and try to act on the most recent one that makes me feel something before I think it's stupid. Like get it out there
Mm.
before, because I am going to think it's stupid. If it's written down on a little post-it note in a year, it means it sounds so cheesy and has no like juice to it. But if I do it in the moment, it has juice to it. And I've
Ah,
noticed that sometimes, like when I tap into that thing, like I'll put it up and it'll hit people in that same way, and I
isn't
don't
that
know why
interesting,
it's hitting people. Yeah,
dude?
and
Yeah.
that's what I like about the arts, is where you communicate a feeling that you're feeling, and you notice that other people, maybe lots of other people, or even if it's just 12 other people, have that feeling too, and then you don't feel alone, and you feel you're part of the one, which is the point of all this new age woo woo everything.
Yeah.
This is to articulate how we are not separate and we're all part of the one. And I've got go ahead. It sounds like you had something you wanted to say.
I only had to say something because you said so many fucking awesome things there, but it's interesting how I think you just summed it up. Like you nailed it, like really quickly, cosmologically, philosophically, that we're all just reminding us ourselves that one, we're one. And that is
Yeah.
somewhat of a nebulous term, but what I was about to say something is because it's so funny to me that very it's just clear when you grasp that concept can be so quickly grasped by whatever you want to call it, the ego, the mind, whatever, and turned into this weird us versus them paradigm, like very fucking quickly. Like, oh yeah, we recognize all as one. Do you? Like that shit happens so fucking fast. And I mean, I don't even say that like I'm immune from it. It's just it always like blows my mind when I hear someone say it so eloquently and clearly. And I think this harkens back to something else you said, like we're just kind of trying to remind ourselves of this, right? Like this is what we're doing. And I love that like when you're doing something, you jot it down and realize that you have to get the juice of the moment. It's rare that I'll go back to something that's very, very old and be able to recapture, like I'm talking about a song or something, and recapture that exact like spirit I had it in. Once in a while it'll happen, but it does seem like if you can catch something in the moment, get it out in the world, which we have the benefit of doing in this day and age, and then it resonates with people. There's something about that proximity that is just so fucking cool.
Yeah, with music especially, it makes me think of how Prince would keep certain takes in, even if it had a mistake in it,
Yeah.
because it had the feel, and
Yeah.
and there's no way you can recreate that specific sound at that moment, because the earth is in a different place than it was before, the sun is in a different place than it was before. The whole configuration of our little ball like flying through infinityness is never going to be in that spot again. So like every single moment leaves a permanent footprint when it takes place. So if you act in that moment, then you've captured that moment, and you can never capture it exactly the same again.
So it's so true. When did you start taking drugs?
Like let's see, 7 a.m. No, but a more serious answer to that. Um I didn't smoke cannabis or eat cannabis till I was in my 20s.
Hmm.
And because I was always, like I said, space cadet. I didn't listen to teachers or even my friends, and it'd be like, how guys rip on each other and stuff,
Right.
and girls rip on each other too. It's a different style of ripping, and
Yeah.
and we're the same too. I'm not doing the gender different thing. It's kind
Don't
of
worry, no one thinks you
it's
are. Yeah.
what is it? It's interesting. It's like someone was showing, who was it? I think it was like a Jordan Peterson
Oh God.
thing, which Jordan Peterson's got some. I know he's like a polarizing figure and stuff, but like at first you hear the voice and he's like, "Well, trans people don't matter, and who cares?" And you're like, "Who's this guy? It's stupid. Why does he keep talking about Marxists? Like, it's capitalism, not good." And then you kind of read more. It's like, oh, actually, he's very smart, and he
He
takes a
is.
while to get to a point, and then once he gets to that point, it's like, yes, that's really cool
He's
shit. I love when he talks about myth and the Joseph Campbell
yeah.
stuff and the tying myth together. But the point I brought him up, I think, because he was showing this bell curve of men and women are pretty much the same, but the ends of the spectrum. Like, you're gonna get the most disagreeable men, like the most disagreeable people in the world are men, and then the most agreeable people, like the outliers, are going to be women. That's just how the overlapping curve works. But yeah, guys would, or I'd get into a lot of I wouldn't pay attention, and then friends would rip on me for just being spaced out all the time. So I specifically didn't want to smoke weed, even in college and stuff, just because people would think I'm a stoner. And then if I never had even tried it, I took a lot of pride in saying, like, no, I've never even tried it. Like, I'm naturally spaced out. And then if I was smoking, then they'd be like, oh, because it would discredit me, and I was afraid of being discredited for my stupid ideas. So.
You're
And
naturally
then
spaced out
eventually
of this.
curiosity kind of kicks in, and then you're like, you know what? Why am I living my life to maintain a perception of what other people think of me? That's a stupid thing. We all know that, Richard Feynman says, what do you care what other people think? All that. Everyone knows that you should stay true to yourself. All the lessons from 80s and 90s cartoons and movies, we all know. So, yeah, that was, did that answer a question of
It did
any sort?
answer a question, and you also, again, you brought up the most polarizing figure in my life, who I've had to delete several tweets about, Jordan Peterson. But yeah, so you started.
Oh, wait, what did, so where, yeah, let's talk about that. What did he do?
Okay, all right. Here's my Jordan Peterson spiel, and I don't think I've gotten this effectively out, even though I've brought him up probably for like cumulative 3 or 4 hours on this podcast already. So here's my stance on Jordan Peterson. A couple of years ago, a little over, I went out and did an event for MindPod Network in LA called Mindwave with some artist friends. It was fucking great, and I had someone there who I met, a new friend, who basically was like, yo, you should check out this dude, Jordan Peterson. And this is before there was any of this brouhaha with anything in the trans stuff or anything. So I was like, all right, I'll check him out. And I watched a few of his videos, and I found, like you, that yes, he was a little laborious to get to a point, but he was an intelligent person. He had some interesting ideas about archetypal myths and some of the hero's journey things and how this stuff kind of fits together in our modern culture. Truthfully, I didn't find him interesting enough to pursue it after that. I was like, all right, cool enough, dude, forgot about it. Then, I don't know, a year and a half ago, something like that, he started popping up because of all the trans stuff. And I was like, what? What is he doing? What is he saying? And I was reading his arguments and watching some videos, and I'm like, oh, that's fucked up. And that's all I thought of it. Then, all of a sudden, I start seeing all this alt-right shit. And a bunch of my friends who I really respect and, really call this type of shit out, who I don't think are doing it in kind of like a mean or polarizing way, were like, yo, he's retweeting and he's, pushing all these alt-right things. And I'm like, what? That's weird. I don't remember him being like that. And sure enough, when I started watching it and just reading more about him and personal anecdotes and things he was saying, I was like, oh shit. This dude did, it to me, it's a very simple case of someone's shadow side. So in Jungian psychology, archetypes are these kind of primordial essences or energies that have manifested through time immemorial, not only in historical sense and personal sense, but like a collective sense. And people argue whether these are actually the collective unconscious is a real thing or kind of an allegory. I fall on the side that it's a real thing. I've had archetypes constellate before. It induced a manic state, not unlike Shane. We spoke about it on this podcast. When it happens, it's fucking crazy. Basically, you feel like you're in control of your life, but this other kind of psychic emanation is essentially ruling your life. So we've all heard of various archetypes, like the wounded healer, the magician, the shaman. These are archetypes that we have in our kind of collective history that we identify with. And in Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, that's the classic archetype that we all kind of identify with, the monomyth, right? That this is this thing, we ascend to the, we go outside of our comfort zone, we go to the edge of the forest, we leave our regular reality. This is a perfect, analogy for a psychedelic experience. Then we go into the underworld, we maybe meet ego death, the person who we were before gets obliterated, then comes the resurrection, we reintegrate back into society. That's the hero myth. So the reason Jordan Peterson freaks me out at this point is because I hear people say things like, yeah, I don't really like the stuff he says about, black people or women or trans people, which are blatantly sexist, misogynistic, and racist. Like even if he couches them in some weird multivariate study, a lot of those things are still just cherry picked studies that the alt-right is going to hold up as a justification for white nationalism. Outside of that, I don't really care too much about the cultural and political stances that he takes because I think they're doofusy. What freaks me out about him is he uses those very hooks of Jungian psychology and Campbellian myths and mythology to kind of lure people into this other kind of crazy world of ideas and concepts, which is very fucking real. But to me, just comes off as like a rote parlor trick, because if you actually read Jung, which no one does because he's a shitty fucking writer.
It's dense.
Dude,
yeah.
it's the densest shit ever. If you want to understand Jung, if anyone is really interested in it, she's dense too, but she's less dense. His primary translator, Marie-Louise von Franz, who you will never hear Jordan Peterson mention, and this was like his main dude, Jung's main lady, was Marie-Louise von Franz. She's a much better writer. She'll break down this shit in a way that's actually understandable. So when someone says, oh, I've read Jung, I know archetypes, I know these things, and then they come out and it's just kind of this justification for like a very, let's be clear, like if you dig down in his stuff, it's just kind of misogynistic. There's no real proof that a paternalistic lobster-like society is going to be more effective than humans. He's just arbitrarily picked something that supports.
You're talking about Peterson?
Peterson, correct. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that because I don't know what things you're pointing to when you say like the racism or misogyny things, and I haven't seen all of his stuff.
Yeah.
But from what I understand, I think he just pushes, personal responsibility, getting out of your bed and making your bed, and not letting life bring you down. Life is tragic. Every life is tragic. This is what people don't understand. And when you start to understand something, you take and then I was thinking that where all someone that is smarter than you or appears smarter than you really does is all they're doing is just being able to dig a larger hole. So like you're going down this journey and it's like, oh, he thought of 100 points deep and I was thinking 70 points deep. But
right.
Yeah, of course he doesn't know how to structure a society perfectly. But I mean, I know he probably has a it's a weird thing so let's not even take Jordan Peterson, but It's funny that there's people, whether in, alt-right or conservative, whatever thing, like I'm sure there's so many of them that could out-argue me of what would make a better society.
Right.
But and I know in my gut maybe that they're wrong, but in my mind I'm like, no, I don't know that part of history. Like they might bring up a certain historical example, like, no, if you look at it historically, time and time again, this fails, and then this thing is good, and then someone points out, yeah, but that one oppressed this part of people, and then they say, well, oppressing people is part of the cosmos. That's how star formation and galaxy formation is. There's always got to be that underclass, which, man, it's quite a problem. But
to me, what really cuts through that very quickly is the unification of the heart and the heart mind. And I think that's where Jordan Peterson and people who really, really identify with some of his intellectual ideas miss out. He's cut himself off from the feeling compassionate, feel the suffering of the world, not only on an individual sense and not only saying, hey, here's the suffering, here's how we alleviate it, but feel it, because that's going to tune you into something called compassion, empathy, which is going to give you that extra superpower that cuts through that stuff. We can intellectually just like go over this stuff. Like you said, 101 points, 500 points. That is endless. Philosophers have done that endlessly through time immemorial. But if we actually want to, really cut and change lives, right, for ourselves, starting with ourselves, you have to bring in that heart aspect, right? That feeling aspect, which to me is notably absent in a lot of that stuff, regardless of whether it's, neoliberals or alt-right. And I don't keep up to date on that. I just kind of refer to alt-right as, bordering on, white nationalism and racism, that type of stuff. And Jordan Peterson's stuff is clever because he couches it in these weird kind of studies. But like my friend Jason Louv, who I got tuned into from Duncan, who I know is just on your podcast, which we're going to talk about.
Yeah, he came out yesterday.
Yeah. He's the one banging the hand. He's tuned me into a lot of this stuff. And he's like, listen, this dude has been mysteriously retweeting Koch brother campaigns for like the past 2 years. Like this isn't like as innocent as a lot of people think it is. Like someone is paying the bills for this kind of phenomenon that we're seeing. And it's kind of like, we're having a conversation about Jordan Peterson now. It'll be interesting to see in like 2-3 years what his kind of myth that he builds for himself is. I don't think he's a purposely nefarious person, just to be clear. I think that his shadow side has constellated outside of his control. It's running his life. The fame is feeding it. The projections are feeding it. And I think he genuinely feels that he's helping people. But I also see, because of how polarizing he can be, it's creating this whole other weird thing. But I try not to be too hard on him.
Yeah, and he is helping people, but he's also probably upsetting, or not probably, he is upsetting people because you can't help it. But
yeah, it's interesting. Well, there he goes. He's yet again gone into another podcast. Dude, let's talk about, speaking about podcasts.
Wait, who's gone into another podcast?
Jordan Peterson. This dude has infiltrated like every single one of my past 10 podcasts. He's got the
really? What's the most recent one?
Roshi Joan Halifax. I brought him up because she knew Joseph Campbell gave her away at her wedding to Stanislav Grof. So I wanted to ask her, I was like, you knew Joseph Campbell. She calls him Joe. She's like, oh yeah, Joe. Most people don't think of him like that. She's like, yeah, Joe. So I was like, what do you think of someone like Jordan Peterson, who's going around like using Joseph Campbell's name to like support these kind of crazy theories in some instances? And she's like, who? And I'm like, of course. Thank you for being you. Like, you're not thinking about Jordan Peterson on like the foothills and the mountains of Nepal helping like nomads. Good for you.
But I mean, I'm pretty I like to if you've got a good teaching, I want it. That sort of thing. Like I like seeing the good, because he has provided a lot of good points. I don't know what his whole like thing is. I don't spend enough time to figure out what his whole thing is, but even like when people got upset at Adam Carolla or something, I'm like, oh yeah, maybe you don't disagree with his politics, but you cannot deny that he's not funny or double negatives with that. Yeah, but like sometimes he'll go off on rants. He'll be like, no, there's no prison to school to prison pipeline. You just got to focus on family and education, and that's it. That's fucking it, Drew. And then like you're like, no, that's
wrong.
You do have to help people, but like when he's doing those long rants and it all ties back in, it's such a cool talent. Or I was just thinking like how Jimi Hendrix once said, I wouldn't change a thing. Maybe just a little more color in the streets. That's all. And like that's in the tumultuous 60s. So one could take that out of context, not knowing who Jimi Hendrix is, not knowing that he's black or has that deep connection to source or any of that stuff, and just say this straight male said, I wouldn't change anything about what's going on. You'd be like, no, that guy is evil. Right. That's bad. So we're just taking in whatever sound, vibration, and things that people put out, and then it doesn't resonate with what we think is a good, empathetic person, because tough love is good, and then it becomes debatable. Like, well, is this style of tough love good? I don't know. Yeah. But if it's coming from a love place, then it's good to me. Good teachings.
Yeah, I think that's the hallmark of a good teaching, right? If it's coming from a place of love. I'm in a weird place, I guess you could say, psycho-spiritually, from my deep involvement with a lot of these teachers and the organizations that have kind of sprouted up around them over the past however many decades. It's weird because you see at the end of the day, people are just people. Like I haven't met the person yet. Ram Dass is about as close as someone I found who's just beaming love all the time. But I'll tell you the Ram Dass story. When I was at the retreat one year,
that's so cool. You got to go.
Yeah, I went twice. I used to I did all their digital for like 5 years. We set up the whole thing. But so I got to go there a couple times, and I was there, and it was in between. I was probably outspoken weed somewhere, and I just wandered into the dining hall. It was him and his helper, Dasima. And he was giving her like a crazy hard time because she's like, do you want some beans? Like, no, I don't want the beans. I was like, I'm so happy I get to see this. Like, cause I know that there are people out there, like you go to those retreats, they're like, this is a guru. This is my God. And it's like, no, this is a dude who really knows a lot and has had some crazy experiences and has found a way to kind of communicate some really profound truths authentically for the majority of his life. But he's a person too. And I think that's something that you have to remember on both sides. So when you're loving someone, or like me, when I'm kind of like, joning on Jordan Peterson, he's a person too. And I think that's important to remember. I'm a big Kanye West fan, and I support him even when he says stupid shit too. So like I have to be as tolerant of that. And I think I'm glad you brought
Isn't that
that
funny how forgiving we are of musicians?
up.
Because Jordan Peterson is not a musician or a dancer. Like, take Chris Brown. We're very forgiving of Chris Brown
Yeah.
because he can dance, and we just, or Michael Jackson, like, and then Michael Jackson's this whole other thing, like, child abuse things. Like, of course he would turn out to that, but like, even if there was video, like HD incontrovertible video proof of all the child abuse things, the music would still stand. We'd still be like, yeah, but I love Michael Jackson.
Thriller is really good.
Yeah. Had you ever heard of El Poos?
No.
Oh, I don't even need to go on this tangent too long, but it's this awesome group, no longer functioning, but from Atlanta, Georgia, and it's like half hip hop, but they have an actual drummer, an actual guitar player, an actual bass player, and they would sell shirts that said Michael Jackson didn't touch those kids.
I love that. I love that. I would actually buy one of those shirts. I once got in on an underground electronic house music board in the early 2000s. I got in a long, heated, my only one of all time message board exchange where I was trying to defend Michael Jackson. And they're like, you're an idiot. I was like, no, you didn't do it. You can't be that sweet and do that. I was like, they said this is what his penis looked like. I'm like, I don't care.
Oh man.
But yeah, no, we are very forgiving of people who create great art. I always ask people, like, if Hitler was an incredible musician, would you listen to those beats? Like, would you do it? You probably would. That's how fucked up it is. And that's why art and creativity is such a fucking interesting thing, because it's not the person, is it? Like, at the end of the day, like, we can build a mythology around them, but it's something that kind of cuts deeper than that, which I think is really fucking cool.
Yeah, it washes over whatever worldly stuff they did that we disapprove of, because they brought back that source thing for us. Like, you're forgiven because of the source thing.
Let's talk about that, man, because you described it in a pretty. This is, I don't know when I kind of got onto this concept years ago, but much like a psychedelic trip, when you're pulling some creative idea, whether it's with the aid of any psychedelic or not, you're basically journeying to this other place, looking at something or interacting with it in a way, and then trying to like quickly transcribe it into this reality. And when you do it correctly, it's like you may not even think it's that good, but when you notice other people's reaction and then you think about it or you feel it, you're like, oh shit, I just brought something back. When did you, because you're saying source and bring it back, what's that process like for you if you can internally analyze it?
I experienced it in the download from the universe way, where it's oftentimes just all at once, like the thing it says and the image itself are all at once, and sometimes there's a little tweaking involved, but for the most part it's just kind of there. And a lot of times when I'm alone or at nighttime, I'm very much a night bird. I think like 4 a.m. is where the magic happens. Sometimes 2 a.m., but it's just a completely different way of being and thinking when the world is shut off and I'm awake and I don't feel like going to bed and I feel like no one's actually in this world and I could just drive around the streets with no traffic. Just there's something about that helps me tap into it. And thoughts are a weird thing. Like, how do we explain what the thought is? Like, you don't really think in terms of words. Sometimes you do. You sometimes think in terms of images. I guess we don't really think in terms of smells or touches that much. Maybe we will in the future. Maybe chefs do. Maybe chefs think
they
like
bring
that
back memories, though. Smells really bring back memories.
Oh yeah, but like when you're let's take music for example. Like when there's a sound playing in your head, like you can kind of hold on to that, but you're not really thinking of like smells, like, because I guess we can't create with smells yet, or you can, but it takes a lot of like liquids and machinery, and you can't highlight the smell and delete it and try it again. Like, we get so much visual and sound control nowadays, whereas smell and touch, those are some frontiers that are just
Yeah,
almost untouched at this point.
that's
It's
so
going to be
interesting.
really cool. I think we're just getting started. To quote who said Gary V, the
I do
businessman
know
and
Gary Vee.
internet. Yeah, he's everywhere. So Gary V says, and this is about the internet. He said, we're at the national anthem of a 19-inning game. This hasn't even started yet.
Mm, mm.
And then he's updated it to be like, I said it was the national anthem of a 19-inning game. It's actually, we haven't even left the house yet to
Yeah,
go to the tailgate party to then go see like, this internet thing is so new, and we're still in temper tantrum mode. We're still like yelling at each other, and we're confused, and we don't know what it is. It's very much like we're going through this teenage angst, and then
yeah,
once we get through that, it's going to be really cool. Once we see the adult, mature version of the internet, and it's
yeah.
not going anywhere. They thought it was
No,
a fad. They thought Facebook was a fad. Time compounds. It doesn't pass. It takes the thing that it makes
that's right.
and keeps it. So it invents hydrogen. Cool. And then, like, helium comes along. It's not like no more hydrogen. Hydrogen gets to stay too. Everything gets to stay. There's the aquatic life gets to stay. Even if we kill all of it, we'll revive it with some kind of AI Westworld thing, I guess. But in terms of what it represents, like nature, the cosmos, the universe, source, all of it, it keeps stuff. It wants to keep things. That's why it
Mm,
makes stuff.
mm. It also kills things too in a very
Sure, but
interesting
in the
thing.
time dimension,
In
though,
the
it
time
kills it in
dimension,
the
yes,
time dimension. But
yes,
once it's made it, like,
eternal.
going back to that, the Earth never revisits the spot that it was before. It's almost like it's writing to a hard disk, like, because the Earth is never in the
Mm.
same position it ever was.
It
Once something
spins,
takes
yeah.
place, yeah, it literally took place. That place has been taken.
It's time for a defrag, I think, on the Earth's hard drive, just for a little bit. I think that, dude, that's so interesting too, and it makes me think about the internet and kind of digital technology of being like another sense organ in a lot of different ways. That's how it feels to me, because it's like, I mean, I can't tell you how many conversations I end up having where it's like, yeah, technology, social media, it's like we don't have time to adapt to this stuff. It just keeps coming, and then we're like, yep. And then like the next day happened. It's like, holy shit, this is what's going on. It really does feel like this extended layer of consciousness that we're still just like very early, like watching this new body part grow out of us. And we're like, what's that? I don't know. We'll see what it is. It's just, it's fucking nuts, man.
Yeah, we're still in the womb for sure.
Yeah,
And,
it's,
the birth process has a lot of bloodshed and it's painful, but we are becoming whatever the same way that all the single-celled things banded together to make multicellular us, like, we're all banding together to make the next whatever 5D or 4D entity. And it probably already is, and we're just going to wake up to it. Like, I like to think about it like that image of the old lady and then the young lady, and they're the same picture, but at first you maybe just see the old
yeah,
lady
yeah,
and then the young lady, but the young lady was always there. And
right.
I think that's what Gaia is, or like the Earth consciousness thing. I think it's always been here, but we're gonna wake up to realize that, oh shit, we're all one, like, organism in this planet,
Yeah,
a superorganism,
I,
and it's already been like that.
I love
And
how
we're at
these
war with ourselves, like, and we're the planet is at war with itself, and we are at war with ourselves internally. Like, every single day, we can't eat right, we don't exercise enough. I forgot to write that person back. I blah blah blah.
What do you think that's about?
The internal war.
Yeah, the function, if there
I
is one.
think that there's the two forces at play in the whole system, and one force is the force that wants to expand out into infinity, like forever, and then
Mhm.
there's the force that wants to set up boundaries. And you need boundaries, because otherwise there would just be the one thing, and boundaries are what creates the nice dynamic that we have. And it's the one thing that God does not have. God is omnipresent, omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient. It knows everything, is
Yeah.
everywhere, and can do anything. So what's the one thing it doesn't have? It doesn't have limitation. So then all this other stuff we see is limitation. Like, you and I are one, but we're limited. Like, we have different tastes and different, like, get down to it, we're probably similar in a lot of ways, but we have differences, and that's what makes it fun. Because then when you come together with someone else, it's like it creates that tension release.
Well, it's so interesting to me hearing you say this, because when you're talking about boundaries and that kind of like push and pull of the duality, that those boundaries, also that constricting thing or the bound, they create, it opens up the channel for gratitude too. Like you
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to be grateful for anything if it was all the same, because it would just be like, all right, we're always grateful. It loses its meaning. But when you can actually reflect upon itself, be like, oh my God, I'm so happy and lucky to be in this position and to have these things and experience this thing, even if it's a short period of time. Like, that's like one of the coolest things about life to me. Like, without a doubt, like, it's one of my
Yeah.
favorite feelings. And it's like also like a superpower. If you can cultivate the skill of being grateful for any circumstance, like if you're one of those Buddhist monks in Tibet, when they got locked up by the Chinese, they're like, oh, I love you. Like, if you can be one of those people, you fucking done it. You win. You win. You get to do whatever
Yeah.
the fuck you want.
It's so obvious, yet we shy away from it because it's cheesy. Like, I'm not going to be grateful. You're only allowed to be grateful if you were just diagnosed with cancer or
Right.
were in a car accident. But if you've just got everything going on, you're grateful. They think you're, bro, new age, spiritual or something.
It's so funny. I have reminders on my phone set up to remind me of gratitude, which everyone's like, oh my God, that's such a great idea. And I'm like, yeah, it is a good idea, except when you keep getting the reminders and then start getting annoyed by them after like a few years, like, fuck gratitude. That's an interesting thought.
Yeah, there's no shortcut, man. You
no, there
think
really
that you can,
isn't.
like, you're like, I figured it out. Just put gratitude every hour and then I win. Nope, your mind's going to
Nope.
find a way to not do that. And I feel like we're going to end up there even if we get full sensory VR things that we can go into and experience any food or sexual experience or music experience or any type of thing that we want. I think we're still going to end up where we were unless you've kind of cultivated how to ride the waves and deal with we get it in music. Isn't that funny? Like we
Yes.
understand that in music, maybe not in a way that you can articulate, but when song goes to a minor place or where there's a rest
Right.
and like there's a dynamic in a song, and our lives are a song. There's got the low points, it's got the like part where it stops, and it's not just all crescendo and build up, build up, build up, build up, build up,
Right.
build up, build up.
Right.
It's got to have that little dynamic of dissonance and harmony
Yes.
and rest.
Have you read The Mysticism of Sound and Music by Hazrat Inayat Khan?
No, wait,
Okay.
it's by someone.com?
No, he's a Sufi mystic. His name is Hazrat Inayat Khan. I'll send you the link. I've sent this book.
Yeah, send me the link. I love those. I've read I like The Music Lesson by Victor Wooten a lot.
Yo, Victor, I saw him many times in Boston. He's the man.
Yeah, that book, it's so good. I think everyone that plays music or wants to should read it, because there's some things in there where I was like, that would have been helpful if someone told me that when I was 5.
Yeah, so I went to a
And
music
it's
school, and some of the things that you will learn not in the way of learning your instrument, either traditionally or not, can be taught by people who actually know what the fuck they're doing, believe it or not.
yeah, and philosophically,
Yeah.
like he's got lines like, have you heard this one where he says, never lose the groove to find the note. That's
That's
such a smart one in life too.
in
Like we spend
life.
so much time going backwards, and like, no, then you lose the groove if you're trying to find the note. And even crap, what was the other one? Yeah, like, so in Western music, there's 12 notes, and in any key signature, 7 out of those 12 are going to be the correct note
Right.
in that key signature, and 5 are going to be the quote incorrect note.
Right.
So like, yeah, let's look at a C major. If you take all the white keys on a piano, that's all the right notes. The black keys are the incorrect notes.
That's
so
right.
if you hit an incorrect note, you're never more than a half step away from
Yep.
being in the right key. So like we think like, oh fuck, I screwed up, but no, you're never more than just a half step away from being back in tune. And it's a mental game. Like we get out of tune every now and then. It's
Oh,
like,
you're
I
gonna
just
love
gotta
this.
shift it.
Dude,
Yeah,
you're
go
gonna
for
love
it.
you are gonna love this book. I promise you that you will love this. It's
I
one
bet
of the
I
coolest
will.
things. So I got like 15 minutes before I had to go get my kid. I want to talk about, dude, tell me about Rainbow Brain Skull podcast.
It's a podcast I started this year. I tried to start it, I think, like a year or two ago, and I just, procrastination and just trying to make things right and perfect, and it just got buried. And then I've wanted to do one for a while. I did a podcast with my friend Maggie May, and another one with friend Chris Cubis. They're comics that at the time were in Austin. and those lasted for a little bit, and I really wanted to just do one myself, just regular Mark Maron style, me
Yeah.
and one guest. And I didn't really think about what the theme would be until I started making the graphic after a few episodes of what I
Mm,
could write about it. And then I noticed that the topics that kept recurring were creativity, motivation, and death. So I like to talk about that. I like to talk to creative folk who like to do lots of things. Maybe they're a comedian, but they're also working on their music, but they're shy
yeah.
about putting out an album because they're associated with being a funny person, or maybe a musician is afraid of comedians thinking that they're not funny enough, so they don't want to show that side of them because they're like, no, comics won't think I'm legit. So we end up just putting these walls around what we are, and then resent ourselves and our work for not
Yeah.
being able to branch out enough. But it's like it's becoming the age of the polymath, and you
Yeah.
can see it in big examples like Donald Glover. We accept him as an actor and musician. And on the micro, I think like Michael Garfield does a lot of stuff and is accepted as that, not at
Yeah.
the Donald Glover level, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. In his
And
own
you're
way.
one of those people too, a polymath, doing a lot of different things, and I'm trying to encourage that. And if there's enough of those, like when people say like that's not a thing, what they mean is that there's not more than one instance of that. And then when
Right.
there's lots of instances of something, then let's break down that word, in stance. When it is in a stance, when it's in
Mm,
there, then we accept it. So I like to shed light on these many instances of people that do a lot of things and see what trouble they get themselves into mentally and how they get out of it. And also just regular talk style podcasts. It doesn't
yeah.
really stick to any format that much.
Yeah, I love how you put that, and I've always taken the easy way out when people ask me what my podcast is about. I'm just like, yeah, it's me talking to cool people I like, and but really, like the fact that you keyed in, and it's cool that you came back by doing the image, but you keyed into those three things. I mean, that's fucking awesome. Also, I love that you're kind of shedding a light that you could see it in the past if you were around other creative people, but it's not like if you were a musician, that's all you do. It's not like if you're funny or you've done stand up or you're a comedian, that's all you do. Rarely these days, and especially if you look at the younger people, like you can do a lot of different things and you can be good at them. And that whole, I hate that phrase, jack of all trades, master of none. That limits so many people. And it could be a thing. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but if that's going to be the thing that limits you from pursuing multiple things you're passionate about, that's fucked up. Don't do that. You may
Yeah,
be
and
good at a
isn't
lot of
isn't specialization is like to make good factory workers so that you can have a more efficient assembly
things.
line. Like it's not efficient if your guy screwing on the bottle cap also wants to write poetry on the side of the bottle. You
Yeah.
can't have that. You need the poetry guy locked away,
Yeah,
and you need the
man.
bottle screwing guy, and that makes for a more efficient machine. But it's the thing is exploding now. We're like 10 years from now, the same way that the cell phone came out of nowhere and smartphones are now where everything is done now. In fact, if you have a website that's only desktop, it's old. Like think about that.
Yeah, I know,
Websites used to
right?
be like, oh, why would we have a website? And now we've come full circle where it's like, why would we have a website? We've got a Facebook and Instagram page.
Yeah, man.
So even the website has gone from being too futuristic to even have to being out of date, all within like under a decade. It's wild.
You
And
know, yeah,
the thing is speeding up, and that's a scary thought to some people, but it's happening whether you like it or not. So find a
yeah,
way to be like, have fun with it. We only get to live this one life as the you that is you, as who said that, Jen Sincero from the How to Be a Badass at Making Money book. She said, because she like that's a good business book that also ties in the spiritual things to it. I don't know if you're familiar with
no,
her or
I'm
her
not, but I love that.
but
That's
yeah, she wrote like you only get this one life as you that is you, because then it addresses that like yeah we reincarnate forever and we're all one, and like the you never dies, but this you that is you only get this time once.
make the most of it. I, I,
Yeah,
I love it. Do you ever get to New York? Are you?
I haven't in a while. I've like my money, hence the money book. Like my finances have sucked this last year, and I'm figuring it out. But
Hey man, I
and I mean,
was
I'm not like living in
squalor.
Liberia or anything. I live in Silver Lake in
Okay, my
Los
friends. Yeah,
Angeles,
I know
so
you. Yeah,
it's
I
not
get it, dude.
it's not a good and I have like some assets and stuff, but my liquid cash has been disrupted a bit. Like some comic book stores that I would sell stuff in went out of business. I had some clients that didn't pay me. I know I'm activating all these negative vibrations now, but
No,
it's
you're
fine.
not, dude.
Um,
Honestly, I went through the worst financial crisis of my life. Like, I just got out of it 6 months ago. It was like a year. I just had a kid. I just bought a house. Like, I get it, even if it's not dire. Like, money is this fucked up thing. I
yeah,
get it. Just whatever spare change you have. I don't do anything. Just buy a teeny little bit of Bitcoin every so often. Trust me on that one. I know a lot of people are touting it as some magical fix, amazing thing, but I've had cryptocurrency since 2013. This shit is changing the world already.
yeah.
These
I wish I'd
crypto,
held on to some of mine. I now I have like like maybe a couple $100 in my
just keep
Coinbase, but
just keep getting
I
some. Just keep getting
what?
some. Just
Just
keep
keep
getting
getting
some.
it.
Truthfully, just like, $10, $15 at a time. If that's it, you'll look in 5 years and you'll be like, you know what? I'm glad I did that. Truthfully.
Yeah. What about Ethereum? How do you feel about that?
I have a whole server where I talk about all these things. Ethereum, here's Ethereum. It's a shit coin. It's actually not scalable. It's not that great. It's going to make people a lot of money. It's going to be around for a really long time. It's not really as good as people think it is, but that's not a reason not to own it. I don't own any right now, but when things start going up again, I love to trade in and out of Ethereum because it's a great way to acquire more Bitcoin.
Are you saying that it's a shit coin in terms of structurally, or you
Yeah.
mean like because from like let's say oh yes, that might be tough to go into though, right?
No,
Or do you have two sentences about it?
we have 9 minutes, and I'm confident we can get to the three questions I'm going to ask you that are quick, and for me to cover why I think Ethereum is a
Oh
shitcoin.
well, okay. Let's save Ethereum for last then. It's not that
Okay,
interesting.
let me ask you those three. I know everyone hates it. I've turned this podcast like a few episodes into cryptocurrency stuff. People fucking hate it. They hate it. So like,
Oh
what?
man, have you had Michael Garfield on? You probably have, right?
We talk all the time. We're bannering in our Facebook group. We have a crypto seer private
Oh,
Facebook. Oh
awesome.
yeah, dude, I'll invite you to sleep.
I loved his breakdown of like how the banks used to be Athena, like literally it was a temple of Athena,
Yes.
and it's also the god of war and like military industrial complex, and the banks, like how that is currently the god of Athena, and how decentralization is making it so that it's actually going to function the way that like reality functions, which is
Yes.
fractal, and all of
Yes.
the information of the whole cosmos is within the smallest point, like Indra's jeweled
Yes.
net. And I love that it's like fulfilling that prophecy of Bitcoin is going to
I
be
didn't.
everyone has that information. And I thought it was beautiful. He breaks it down in one of those podcasts. It's like Third Eye Drops or Fossil Fuels or something.
I have to fossil fuels, future fossils. I have
Yeah,
to.
yeah, there we go.
I have to get him on again to talk about this shit. I'm always flaming him because he likes IOTA and EOS, and I think they're also shit coins. I'm a cantankerous. I just shit post people all day. Let me ask you these questions, and we'll see if we have time for why Ethereum is an actual shit coin. Okay, what is your favorite color?
Purple.
What is your favorite number?
7.
What is your favorite animal?
Cat.
Cool. What's a practical tip that's helped you in your life that you could share with people listening?
Mindset is everything, and you do have control over it, even though it's difficult. You are the entity experiencing the movie that is your life right now. You and I are a waveform that you, the listener, are listening to now. You can listen to it at 1.5 speed. You can listen to it at 2x speed. You can rewind. We are not real. You are real, and you have control, and you can make yourself and the world a better place, and it's all the same thing. So if you make the world a better place, it's going to want to help you as well.
Oh man, I love it, dude. I didn't even find out like enough about you, which I usually like to do. You'll have to come back on.
You look up a little more. I'm like this horrible racist
Yeah, oh my god. Jordan Peterson isn't that bad. This guy's a total shit.
And this isn't even how I really talk. You look up my videos, like, we need to exterminate all the trans people now because they're just coming to our jobs and taking all our money. That's not okay.
Oh my god, dude! I feel like I met a new friend. If you do get to New York, even if we have to do a funding campaign, I say that facetiously, but seriously, if you ever get to New York, I'll make sure to get into the city and we can hang because
I'd love to.
yeah.
I need to go. I need to go to Cosm. Sean
Yeah,
and
man, that's
Cass
like
were telling me I need to go to Cosm.
that's 40
I love
minutes away from
Palisade.
me. Yeah, dude.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, dude. It's gonna be awesome. All right, here's my 2-minute why Ethereum is a shitcoin. Okay.
Go for it.
Here's the thing. Vitalik Buterin has said the same things. He's the founder of Ethereum. And we won't even get to him that there's a person who's in charge of Ethereum that's a big, chink in the armor there. Okay. So for a cryptocurrency project, you can have 3 things. You can have scalability, immutability, and what the fuck is the other one? Holy shit, I'm blanking. Scalability, immutability, and of course, decentralization, the most important one. So Ethereum is decentralized and it's immutable. What it can't do is scale. Scaling is the easiest problem to solve over all of those. If you're not decentralized and you're centralized, it's done. If it's not immutable and you can write to it, it's done. So theoretically, you can scale up and solve that problem later. The problem is Ethereum's network as it is now is not that good. And they don't have a clear plan for how to scale if all of these decentralized applications are actually going to run on the platform. And what you're also seeing is Ethereum tokens being used as part of ICOs and other quick dash kind of money grabs to fund projects, which they then either flip into Bitcoin or fiat, which is just not a healthy ecosystem. And then on top of that, you have a lot of people using ERC20 tokens, which are Ethereum replications of an eventual blockchain, which is happening every day. Like one of my favorite coins is V Chain, and they just launched their blockchain. So there's a lot of problems with this, not to mention that Vitalik Buterin is a figurehead. Who's the head of Bitcoin? That's why Bitcoin works. That's why Bitcoin's been around for 9 years, even though banks and governments fucking hate it.
And no one knows the dude, right? Or it might
Satoshi
not be an
Nakamoto.
actual
Yeah,
guy.
it could be some people think it's an alien. It could be a person. It could be a woman. It could be a group of people. But there are certain principles that underpin cryptocurrencies, one of which is a legal distinction, but Ethereum was a security. It was raised and owned by people who then created the thing. That means it was something at some point. Bitcoin was never that. Came out of thin air, was mined by these things. No one ever owned it outright. So all this is to say that buy Ethereum. It will go up in value when Bitcoin does. Most things that aren't total garbage will. But if there's just a basic level primer, buy $10 of Bitcoin every week, every month, you'll be happy as time goes on.
I like that. I'm actually gonna take that to heart.
Yeah.
One question. Would it be possible for Ethereum to just, because they have the scalability problem, couldn't they just literally jack Bitcoin's infrastructure model and just say, no, we're just Ethereum, the same way that Instagram stole
Right. No,
thing?
because of the way their smart contracts work in the actual platform, they've already deviated. They've taken, Ethereum is essentially, it's not an actual fork, but they took parts of Bitcoin and basically like, all right, we're going to build a new thing based off of this. So the technical specifications of why that can't happen, I obviously don't have time for on this, but no, it's not really possible. They're also, the current Ethereum that we know as Ethereum is actually a fork. The real Ethereum, which is not actually the real Ethereum in quotes, is Ethereum Classic, ETC. And there are differences between that and Ethereum as well. Listen, the general point is this for people listening, hearing me call it a shitcoin. It's totally fine to buy it. It's going to make people a shitload of money. Just as a fundamentally sound cryptocurrency, I don't believe it's one. That's all. But it's really cool. Yeah. This is like my new, I switched from being a digital marketer to cryptocurrency about a year and a half ago, and I haven't looked back. It's the coolest.
What would you do as a digital marketer, like Facebook ads?
No, I would basically built out Ram Dass's, Jack Cornfield's, Sharon Salzberg. I built out their entire ecosystems. So like I built out all their social media, their mailing lists, started making them money, ungated content, came up with strategies.
What's that like billing those guys? Because that's like,
it's a whole other. Well, we have
like, how do you? Because when you're writing that number, where they're like, how much is it going to cost to do blank? Like when you're coming up with that number, which we all make up, it's so arbitrary. It's
You
like
start.
your website costs $5,000 because I pulled that out of my ass.
I did it pro
Please say
bono
yes.
for like a year, and then the rest we would have to talk about off air. It's a very interesting experience getting paid to do stuff and valuations with these things. One cool thing about the internet is you can always say, this is what's actually happening. Here are the numbers. Here's what's going on. So usually what I would do when I'm working with anyone, whether it's cryptocurrency or digital marketing, if I'm charging more than I'm making the person, I won't take the money. Like, don't, that's stupid. Like, I don't want to hamstring people. So as long as it
Yeah,
was
you're
commensurate.
bankrupting them.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, I got to run to pick up my kid, but it was so nice meeting and speaking with you.
Yeah, you too, man. This has been great.
Yeah, man. I will speak to you soon. We'll get you on MPN in the next couple of weeks. And just really, yeah, pleasure.
Right on. Well, have fun with that kid. Don't be too hard on him. Make sure he stands. This is like half of this episode is Jordan Peterson centered, and no, if you hear this Jordan Peterson, we're just messing around, and you probably hear criticisms all the time.
It's so true. All right, man. Peace.
Peace out, man.
Thanks for listening to that episode. A reminder, go check out Rainbow Brain Skull Podcast Hour. It's on MindPod Network, RaminNazer.com. Great dude. Looking forward to doing a lot more with him. I don't know if you caught it. My good microphone, wasn't on during this interview. So I think it's ironic in the beginning we're talking about audio quality. It bothered me. If it bothered you, sorry, you probably didn't care. Good stuff coming in the next few weeks. I got some cool people for you to listen to. I don't know why I did that. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next week.